So as we kick this class off, I think it's important to just, at a real high level, talk about why do people go online for real estate. And there's really 3 reasons, okay? It can all be boiled down to 3 reasons why people go online. And this is not going to shock anybody, right? And in fact, my last bucket there, information, that's kind of a catch-all, right? But the majority of folks that are going online as it relates to real estate are looking for listings, right? And so you get these massive numbers at websites like Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com of people every month going online and looking at listings. And then home values would be that next reason why people are going online, right? They want to try to figure out, what is my house worth? And then there's this, like I said, it's a big bucket, information. I mean, that literally covers everything else, right? It might be tax rates. It might be, information about mortgages. It might be just information about, like, areas where they're interested in potentially moving or living. So these are the reasons why people go online. And we're going to kind of look at here in a little bit, kind of what are some of the things we can do with each one of these little buckets to make sure that our blog posts have kind of the points in them, those connection points that allow somebody to easily reach out to us or to get what it is that they want when they were on our content. So a bunch of this class, you guys, is going to be focused on your own website or where you're sending people out of your blog. So your blog might be about something and they want, like, it's about a particular condo building, and then they want to find the listings in that condo building, or maybe they own something in that building and they wanted to find the value of their place. We're not going to be able to do that necessarily in our blog, especially when we think back to some of our past classes and we think about that concept of evergreen, right? Where we're writing blog posts that are as good today as they will be a year from now. We need to figure out then, okay, how can we use our blog posts to get the person over to the current content, right? To the current listings from today, to the current market stats, to a page where they can find out current valuations for their home, stuff like that. So I really want you guys to think about the purpose of your website, and I'm going to put forward that somewhere in your arsenal, okay, somewhere in your arsenal, you need to have a website that is capable of generating leads. And so today, as we go through this class, there's going to be a bunch of times where I use an example site, and it's the site from Market Leader. There are other sites out there that do these same things, okay, but I'm very familiar with the Market Leader one. And so I'm going to show you kind of some of the things that those sites do that allow you to be able to generate leads. So really keep in your head, like, what is the purpose of your website? There's going to be some things that I talk about, I share, and I show that I hope you are able to identify whether or not your website does these things, because in some cases, if your website does not do these things, well, then you're going to have a little bit harder time probably generating leads with your blog than somebody who's more equipped. So the first reason people go online, and like I said earlier, it's the most prolific reason why people are going online in our industry, is to find listings. Okay, and I don't think this is a surprise to anybody out there. And if we think back to, like, our class on keyword phrases and even our SEO class, and a lot of the examples I've used throughout our bootcamp series, they've been around this idea of people finding listings, right? As people are looking for homes for sale in a specific subdivision or condos for sale in a specific building, they might have wanted information about that building, and that's what our blogs kind of hope to achieve. But at the end of the day, they probably wanted the listings, and so there becomes this kind of challenge in, how do we write an evergreen blog post that's going to keep updated and fresh listings in front of visitors who might not find that blog post for 6 months or for a year? Okay, so the most obvious way that we're going to get somebody to our listings, and probably the most effective way, is going to be via a link, right? And this is not, I'm pretty sure everybody on here knows what a link is. I would say 95% of you know how to create a link on ActiveRain, and I would say, every one of us has clicked a link somewhere on the web, right? It's a very common deal. Now, a couple of things about the link. Okay, we're going to have specific anchor text, and in our SEO class in week 1, we talked about how we want to have somewhere in our blog post, we want to have an anchor text link, so a link with words that match our keyword phrase. So if our keyword phrase was Bavarian Village condos for sale in Anchorage, we'd want to have a link in our blog somewhere using the phrase Bavarian Village condos for sale in Anchorage. Okay, that link then is going to land them in an exact spot, and we're going to want to attempt, anyways, to get them to the place we want them to be in as few clicks as possible. And if you land them in the exact spot, there should be no clicks essentially to get them what they want. And I'll show you what I mean by this in a minute, but this is a very key point in your ability to generate leads. And you guys, we learned this the hard way many, many years ago. If you ever have done pay-per-click, you start to learn very quickly that the more efficient and effective you are at getting people to the right places, the higher you can convert them into a prospect for your business. So again, I'll show you what I mean by this. And then when you're linking to listings, right, you've got a blog post about the Bavarian Village condos, and you've got a link in there that says, you know, Bavarian Village, like click here to find Bavarian Village condos for sale in Anchorage, where just the words Bavarian Village condos for sale in Anchorage become the link, right? When they click that, the first thing they need to see on that page they land on is listings, okay? And again, I'm going to show you what I mean by all of this. So here's an example, homes for sale in Seattle's Cedar Park, right? That's the title of the blog post. That's the keyword phrase that I decided to target, right? This is a neighborhood inside of Seattle. You'll notice my link, right there in green, you see it, matches the words in my link, the anchor text match my keyword phrase. Again, we talked about this in week 1, but it's really, really important. Okay? You want to make sure that that link, that first link on the page, is going to get them to the potential listings that this blog post talks about, and that it's above the fold. And what I mean by above the fold, I'm sure you guys know this term. It's an old newspaper term, right? It essentially means like you didn't have to flip the paper over to see it, right? It was above the fold. What this means today is they don't have to scroll down, right? Because if they were literally interested in homes for sale in Cedar Park, my blog post is just going to tell them about Cedar Park in general, right? The links need to get them to the actual houses for sale. Super important. Okay, so we've got the link in there. The next piece becomes the landing page. And you guys are going to hear me probably 5 times after this talk about how important these landing pages are, because this literally is the I can't even spit that word out. The differentiator in your ability to generate leads. Like the people that I talk to who are really getting into this, they're doing a really good job with their blogging. They're getting their stuff to rank, and they can see maybe even traffic to their website. A lot of times it becomes like where they're sending people on their website, that landing page.